Alrighty, hey everyone, I'm meteorologist Anthony Carpino. Thanks for joining me here on Facebook as well as on YouTube. We're going to go over some of the latest information on Hurricane Melissa. It is still a very powerful Category 5 hurricane. It made landfall in Jamaica earlier this afternoon, and it is expected to continue to bring some very strong winds. Of course, a lot of rainfall and some catastrophic flooding to go along with it. So let's go through some of the latest with Melissa itself. You can see the satellite picture, a well-defined eye earlier this afternoon as it made landfall in western sections of the island there. But as you can see, it's moved inland, and the center of that eye has been a little bit harder to see. So we take you through some of the headlines from this afternoon. Making landfall, there it is at 185 mile per hour wind, with a pressure of about 892 millibars. So that sets it up as tied with the third lowest pressure in an Atlantic hurricane on record. So very, very powerful storm there. And you can see the whole list of storms. It's tied with the Labor Day storm of 1935. Gilbert in 1988 is above that there. And then Wilma is the lowest pressure at 882 millibars. That was 2005, of course. So another view of Melissa there. Category 5. Now winds have gone down slightly, but it's still a Category 5 storm with winds of 160 miles per hour. So a very, very strong storm, even as it has crossed the rugged terrain of the island. Of course, the island of Jamaica, not flat at all. In fact, very tall mountains. So that is going to cause its own problems there. So just the fact that it made landfall and it is still a Category 5 just shows the strength of that storm. So very, very powerful stuff. You can see the satellite view of that eye starting to, I don't want to say fall apart, but just making it a little bit harder to see. We'll take a closer look, and yeah, you can see very hard to tell the exact center. It looks like it's actually about to go either just through or just to the east of Montego Bay there. So Kingston misses the eye wall itself, but other parts of the island definitely still feeling the full and direct impact of that eye wall there. Let's go through some of the video that we've seen so far. I want to start with the hurricane hunters sending this video. They posted this just showing what it looks like inside the eye of the hurricane itself. Just absolutely incredible. And then on the ground, we've seen pictures like this. This video comes from the Jamaican government there. You can see the very rough surf, and then portions of that road we later learned is now closed due to some of the flooding. Of course, look at that huge wave there. Just absolutely incredible. We've also seen some pictures of very, very heavy rainfall associated with the storm, and of course, some gusty winds to go along with it. Of course, the wind threat, especially along the mountains, is going to be something to watch. And I know that as we go through tonight and by tomorrow, we're going to have a lot more video coming out of Jamaica. Catastrophic flooding, definitely a possibility there. So something that we're just going to continue to see more and more pictures. In fact, over the last hour, we've gotten a lot more video than what we had earlier this afternoon. So we'll make sure to bring you guys the latest on the video there. So let's continue on through talking about the Melissa itself. So it did make landfall around 1 o'clock this afternoon. The potential for 9 to 13 feet of storm surge. And of course, when you get all of that wind thrown into it as well, that's where we can end up having some problems, especially taking out communications, all of that kind of stuff going to be impacted there. But of course, this isn't just an issue for Jamaica. Of course, right now they're seeing the full effects of the hurricane, but this is expected to move further to the north. So hurricane warnings are in place for places like Cuba, eastern sections of Cuba. You can see that highlighted there in red. And we also have islands of the Bahamas that are also included in that hurricane warning as well. If you guys have any questions about the storm itself, where it's going, or some of the impacts that they're seeing on the island, make sure to drop a comment below, and I'll be able to answer those questions for you guys right here while we're doing this video. So let's go through, let's talk about the path of this hurricane. Right now, still a Category 5 storm. It is expected to move further to the north later on today and weaken to Category 4, and then possibly either a high-end Category 3 or low-end Cat 4 at landfall with Cuba. Either way, still going to be a powerful major hurricane there. Beyond that, we zoom out the picture, and you can see how it further travels off to the north, so weakening from a Cat 3 down to a Cat 2 as it moves through the Bahamas. And then it could impact the island of Bermuda, falling into a Category 1 storm by Thursday night and Friday morning. So more impacts expected there along portions of the areas in the Caribbean and stretching up all the way through Bermuda. So a large area that is going to be impacted here as we head through the next several days, really. Of course, all eyes are going to be focused in on Jamaica itself as we head through the rest of this afternoon and going through tonight. Fortunately for them, as we head through tonight and by tomorrow, well, they're finally going to be out of the strongest winds. So they were dealing with, see if I can back this up a little bit here. They were really dealing with those winds going back to this weekend. So right now, that's where you can see hurricane force winds for the island itself. Then as we go through tonight, there it is 3 a.m. on Wednesday morning. Well, the strongest of those winds have moved off, and now it's places like Cuba that is really starting to deal with all of that wind and rain. But some parts of Jamaica, guys, can end up seeing 15 to 30 inches of rainfall. You put that on a mountainside, it all drains down into the valleys. That's where we could have some just catastrophic flooding, not to mention the wind damage. With the hurricane itself, you already have very, very powerful winds measured 160 miles per hour is our current readings. You travel higher up into the atmosphere within that storm, and you can definitely have higher wind gusts. Well, because the island isn't flat, it has mountains everywhere. Those mountains could actually end up reaching some of those higher winds. So along the higher terrain of the mountain areas of Jamaica, the potential for even higher winds to cause more damage. So I think that's something that we're going to see as we head through the next 24 hours, and we're going to get more and more video. But we're going to have more updates for us, for you guys, starting at 4 o'clock on NBC Connecticut. So make sure to stay tuned there. We're going to try to show some more videos, what's been going on. We'll also break down the numbers, how Melissa ranks with some of the other hurricanes that have moved through the Caribbean and have also impacted the island of Jamaica. So thanks so much for watching this live update, everybody. We're going to have more updates on air starting at 4 o'clock. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day.